People consistently underestimate how fast this is moving, not because they do not follow the news, because capability and deployment run on two different clocks, and almost everyone is watching the wrong one. Alysa and Tomas have the same exposure score, same role, same honest read on which tasks are under pressure. Alysa built a 3-year adaptation plan, steady, reasonable on paper. Tomas looked at the same information and treated it as an 18-month problem. Same starting point. Same data. Different timelines. This video is about why the clock is shorter than most plans assume, and what the data actually shows about the gap between what AI can do and what is about to get deployed. If your adaptation plan runs 3 to 5 years, it may be built on the wrong clock. Most people watch capability, what AI can technically do. Capability is the headline. It is not what determines when pressure arrives in your specific role. What determines that is deployment, how fast organizations integrate a capability into real workflows. Deployment lags capability. But that lag has been shrinking with every wave of general-purpose technology. The gap people are budgeting for is consistently larger than the gap that actually exists. Alysa's plan assumed the historical lag. Tomas assumed it was compressing. The data increasingly supports Tomas. Economic historians studying general-purpose technologies, electricity, computing, the internet find a consistent pattern. Capability arrives first. Deployment lags. Then, deployment accelerates once early adopters show clear returns. Electrification took roughly 3 decades to reach widespread factory use. Enterprise computing took close to 15 years. The internet's enterprise deployment lag was closer to 7. Each cycle has been shorter than the last. A 2024 McKinsey Global Institute analysis found organizations integrating generative AI use cases into production workflows within 12 to 18 months of capability becoming available, dramatically shorter than any previous cycle. The time between capability and your workplace experiencing it has shrunk from decades to roughly a year and a half. Most personal adaptation plans were built on the old lag as an unstated assumption. That assumption no longer holds. Here is the mechanism. 4 steps. Step 1. Capability versus deployment capability is what a model can do in a demonstration. Deployment is what your employer has actually integrated into a workflow that touches your tasks. That gap used to be wide and slow. It is now narrow and fast. Watching capability news and assuming you have years before deployment reaches you is exactly the assumption currently failing people. Step 2. Historical deployment curves the shape repeats each cycle. A long lag where most workers feel no pressure. Then a compression once early adopters show returns. Then acceleration across the rest of the industry. It does not feel urgent until it suddenly does. Once competitors successfully deploy something, organizations do not take years to follow. They move in months, because the competitive cost of not moving becomes visible. Step 3. Current deployment signals. This is already visible, not predicted. In professional services, AI-assisted drafting moved from pilot to standard workflow within a single budget cycle at many firms. In customer service, AI handling of first-tier interactions moved from experimental to default within roughly a year of becoming reliable. In software development, AI-assisted coding moved from novelty to expected practice in a similarly short window. The lag between a tool becoming trustworthy and broad deployment is now measured in months in fast-moving functions, not years. Step 4. The adaptation math if deployment lag has compressed from a decade plus to 12 to 18 months. Plans built on the old assumption are wrong, not because the analysis was bad, but because the clock it was calibrated to no longer exists. A 3-year plan assumes 3 years of stable conditions to build skills and reposition before pressure arrives. If the real window is 18 months, that plan is behind from the moment it is written. This is not a call to panic. Produces the same bad decisions covered earlier in this series. It is a call to recalibrate the clock using current evidence, not historical assumptions. Same exposure score. 18 months later. Alysa is a third of the way through her 3-year plan. Correct diagnosis. Real progress. But her organization deployed the tooling, affecting her core tasks faster than she expected. And she is now adapting under more pressure than her plan accounted for. Tomas treated the same diagnosis as an 18-month problem from the start. Same actions building judgment-based skills, repositioning his task composition on a compressed timeline. When deployment actually arrived, he was already most of the way through the shift. Alysa is just beginning. Neither was wrong about the diagnosis. The difference was entirely the clock each used to plan the response. 1 adjustment. This week, take whatever adaptation timeline you currently hold, formal plan or general sense, and cut it in half. Not because urgency improves decision quality. It does not. Cut it in half because the deployment curve has consistently moved faster than individual plans account for across every recent cycle. Earlier is structurally better than optimally timed, because optimal timing assumes a predictability the historical pattern does not support. If your plan assumes 3 years to shift your task composition, treat it as 18 months instead. The actions stay the same. The pace changes. If this is making you want to get clear on your actual timeline, the career audit in the description gives you a specific track and a 90-day plan calibrated to where you stand. Alysa and Tomas had the same diagnosis. They are not in the same position. The gap was not insight. It was clock calibration, one of the most common and consequential mistakes in how people plan their adaptation right now. Capability headlines move fast and feel abstract. Deployment moves on a faster clock than most mental models account for. And it is deployment, not capability, that determines when pressure reaches your specific role. The question is not how much time do I have? It is what clock am I actually planning against the one the evidence supports, or the one that used to be true for slower technologies. Moving faster is the right response, but it only helps if you know what you are moving toward, and that is the part most plans skip, replacing direction with generic urgency. That is where most of the real work actually is. That is what comes next.